Going on, everyone? Episode 84 of Locker Talk Live. Time for the state finals here. Let me turn off my big volume there, so hopefully there's no reverb going on, and I'll put on my headphones. Jackson, while I do all that, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. Had a crazy day today as I've been traveling out with media days. Was out at Willis at the DJ Lagway commitment to Florida, and just another busy week in Texas high school football, especially with semifinal games going around across the state. So very excited for this weekend.
Yeah, there are some great games indeed. So I don't know if you want to talk about all of them, but let's go through some of them at least. I don't know if there's any you want to go through. I think we saved the biggest for last. Obviously, Westlake North Shore. What games besides that are you looking at, Jackson?
I'm looking at the other side of that bracket. I feel like everyone's talking about North Shore Westlake, and rightfully so. That's probably the best matchup of the week. But don't sleep on that Duncanville Prosper matchup. Prosper has been what Allen has been the past couple of years in that same district this year. They're playing up against a Duncanville team who just seems destined to get that state title. But that Prosper team's got something to prove this week. So that's another game I got circled on my list is that game right there. And then also you've got DeSoto going up against Denton Geyer in 6A D2. I feel like that's another awesome matchup. You're going to get to see Jonte Cook going up against Peyton Bowen and Eli Bowen of that secondary for Denton Geyer. And then you're going to get to see what Jackson Arnold's been doing all year, which is absolutely torching defenses. So can that DeSoto defense stop Oklahoma commit Jackson Arnold? And I think that's another game I'll definitely be watching this weekend.
Here's a question for you. Let me move on to my brackets here, so I can see everything clearly. Um, does does Glen Rose stand any chance against Carthage? Does anyone stand a chance against Carthage? Your kind of dream team, if you will, Silsby, did not get out of their region final, which is in that for a Division II matchup there. So it's Cuero or Wimberley that's going to play, which I think most likely Carthage. Do any of those three teams, Glen Rose, Cuero, or Wimberley, stand a shot against against Carthage?
I think I was watching that Silsby Cuero game, watching it tightly. I was hoping Silsby could pull it out as they were kind of my team to pick in that region. But I think when a team can go through adversity and go through playing those tight games and end up pulling it out, it always seems to help them out down the road. I think that a team like Cuero, after having I believe it was double, maybe even triple overtime game, once you have that experience, especially in a playoff atmosphere, everything's on the line. Every pass counts, every run counts, everything matters in those tight situations. I think that helps a team like that down the road. I think that Cuero, with that experience, could be a team that could get it done as they were able to pull off a win this past weekend.
One interesting game that's actually happening in your neck of the woods at Cy-Fair FCU Stadium on Friday, 3A Division II. Gilmore Harmony taking on Poth. That's actually Poth's not too far from where I live now. That's actually where some of my family grew up, so I know Poth very well. This is a team that's trying to get back to the state championship game for the first time since 1968, where their team lost in the '68 game. So trying to not only get there but win it for the first time. They're taking on a Gilmore Harmony team who you look at their record and you're like, how is this team still in? Harmony is I'm typing their name in right now so I can pull up their full schedule. They've lost 5 games on the year, and so you look at that and you're 9-5 overall, and you're like, how did they get here? But here's the thing, just kind of not like Brock, because I think they're a little bit more of a Cinderella team, if you will. But kind of like Brock, when you think of their record, played some tough non-district opponents. Uh, and so sometimes you can't look at a record at face value. You have to dig deeper in that record, right? Because some of these teams are starting to play a little bit tougher competition in non-district, because at the end of the day, non-district doesn't mean anything. Nothing you do in non-district matters. It's only what you do in district and beyond. Some of these teams like Brock are playing these tougher opponents. I mean, Brock is played Wimberley, and they played Wimberley close, right? So you don't let that record deceive you when you see those 5 losses for Harmony. I'm still rooting for Poth because of that familiarity, but Harmony has a good shot at winning that game. Jackson, any games you want to bring up right now?
Just thinking about it, going on to the 6A D2 level, you've got Katie taking on Vandergrift, who pulled off a great win last week against Dripping Springs. A really close game, only a field goal won that game, so very close game. Can Vandergrift beat Katie? Is Katie going to head into that state championship game with that 10th state title in their program history right in their grasp? Can Vandergrift beat them? I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. I think that Katie will probably get it done, but this could be very interesting. You could see Vandergrift definitely upset them. That's another game I'll be watching this week. Excuse me. And then also you had P&G, who beat Fort Bend Marshall last week. I can't remember exactly who they would play this week, Josh.
Liberty
if you
Hill.
have the bracket.
Liberty Hill.
Liberty Hill, yeah. So you've got P&G and Liberty Hill. Liberty Hill trying to make it back to the state title and finally win it, as they've been the past 2 years and have lost. Can they do it this year? And then can P&G, who's beaten some really good Houston area teams, and then beat a really good Fort Bend Marshall team, who, I mean, I picked them last week to win it, and I feel like this P&G team is on a roll right now. The community is behind them. They had an open practice the week of Thanksgiving, which was the area round, the second round, and over 500 people in the community showed up. That's a community that's going to be rocking whatever stadium it is. So watch out for P&G. They might be able to pull off a little upset at Liberty Hill, but I would have to go with Liberty Hill to win that one. And I'm always for the Cinderella story of finally getting that championship after being so close.
Well, it's going to be an all-purple matchup there, and I'll say on that one, I think P&G has a good shot simply because Liberty Hill is dealing with some injuries to some of their key players. So I think that's going to play a part in that game. Although they didn't, Liberty Hill did very well without those players last week in their win against Corpus Christi Flower Buff. And on that note, with Vandergrift and Katie, I think something important is it depends on what Vandergrift shows up. If it's the Vandergrift that played against Harlan where they struggle in that first half, I think Katie wins that game. But I think if it's the Vandergrift that shows up like they did last week, I mean, I don't know if you watched that game, Jackson, but in that game against Dripping Springs went on a 19-play drive in the fourth quarter and were stopped on fourth and virtually inches to go. I think it was fourth and goal to go, and they were stopped like just short, and then they were able to run out the clock from there. So that Vandergrift defense came up huge in that rematch, and like you said, when you look at the point totals, I think it was 60 for the two games. It was 60 for Dripping Springs, 60 for Vandergrift. But at the end of the day, Vandergrift won the most important one. That was not game one. It was game 14 in the playoffs where you win or go home. I mean, just one of the all-time great. I mean, we had two great games this past week. A little more actually, because Refugio and Shiner was a great game. That one came down to a 4th and 12 from Refugio, where they scored an 85-yard touchdown. Where if they didn't get it, probably seals the win for Shiner. But I mean, you had Silsby and Cuero going 3 overtimes. You had Dripping Springs and Vandergrift basically come down to the wire. You gotta love that. Finally, I think it's time to talk about really quick. Let's mention a couple other teams. I think Bernie. I'm rooting for Bernie against Tyler Chapel Hill. It's going to be a tough one for Bernie, but I'm rooting for them. I'll be at that game at the Alamo Dome, and then I'm looking here in 5A. Looking at College Station. They lose Marquise Collins to start the year, and you're like, well, there goes their season. Well, nope. Their season is right on track now, a game away from making it back to the state championship, where they'll take on either Alito or Longview, who I think Longview is probably favored. But, Jackson, what do you got to say?
Yeah, that College Station Smithson Valley game was another crazy one. If I'm correct, following it on Twitter, there was a big 4th down stop with 2 seconds left on the game. Smithson Valley had the ball at about the 2 or 3 yard line. They have a chance to try to make a play on it, and they get stuffed in the at the line of scrimmage. And that was the end of the game. That's how College Station won. It's always a crazy ending. It's one of those kind of Friday Night Light type games where the guy just is just this short from the end zone. So that was an awesome game. This College Station team has really been a roll. Arrington Maiden has been playing lights out at quarterback at College Station since about the midway point of the season. And then that defense has just been really good this year. And last week they beat a really good Smithson Valley team that has a really good offensive line. So looking forward to seeing if College Station can get back to that state game this year as well.
Yeah, it did come down to that last play, and basically a good play call by the defense. Just basically blew up the holes where Smithson Valley had planned to run through, and it was kind of a great play call there. So let's move on then to kind of the main event, if you will. I think it's the game that everyone's going to be paying attention to. I know I'll be paying attention to it, and I'll be working some games. I'm going to probably have it on in the background somewhere while I'm covering these games this weekend. As North Shore taking on Westlake. Westlake, of course, going for win number 55 in a row. North Shore trying to get back to the state championship game to win. What is it, 4 and 5 years? Is that what it is now? 3 and 4
I think
years?
it is 4. I think we looked it up. It was 4 out of 7.
Yeah, so something crazy like that, and they're doing it without, of course, their starter quarterback. They've kind of been almost a quarterback by committee, if you will. But now they got to go up against Westlake defense, one of the best defenses in Texas. Of course, I think both of those defenses are the best in Texas. I mean, you could probably make an argument it's one or two, and you can make the argument for which one you want to put in which slot. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, Westlake, dealt with a little quarterback injury, it looks like, and they played well with their backup last week. Jane Greathouse is dealing with a hamstring. Don't know what his status is. He suited up in practice but did not play last week. Didn't need to play. Westlake absolutely rolled through Brennan. But North Shore rolled through Atascocita, and that matchup, I did not see that coming. Who wins this one, Jackson? I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, but I'm going to hear yours first. Who wins this one and why?
Yeah, I'm very excited for this game. I'll actually be at Rice on Saturday to cover this game. Very excited for this matchup. I think it's going to come down to two things, and I feel like I've said this for multiple times when you play North Shore. Can Westlake's receiving core of Keaton Quebeca and Jaden Greathouse and those other guys, can they get open against this North Shore secondary who has been stellar all year? I'd argue, anyone that wants to argue me, they're the best secondary in Texas high school football across the board. You've got Devin Sanchez, Javen Anderson, Jacoby Davis, Evan Jackson. All 4 of those guys are studs. And then on the other side, can that North Shore offensive line get pushed against Colton Vasic and that Westlake can they get pushed against that Westlake defense? Because if North Shore is not able to control the line of scrimmage, which is what it's going to come down to, they're going to have trouble with a quarterback who's not necessarily a quarterback, but David Amador has definitely made things happen. So I think it's just going to be an overall great matchup. You're going to have guys who want it on both sides. They're hyped up for the game. The hype has already been built up. It's going to be a great atmosphere for a semifinal game. And I think if I had to pick, I've picked against them multiple times. They proved me wrong every time. I'm picking North Shore. I think North Shore gets it done. I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't know. How can you pick against 54 wins in a row, though? That's tough to do. I think the key is going to be which defense can stop the run. Because I think if Westlake can stop the run, then you're forcing a team where, with a quarterback that, a kind of a backup quarterback to make those throws and make them time and time again. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch. And on the other side, I think if Westlake's running game can be stopped, I think that opens the door for the same thing. I think, when you have to put the pressure on these quarterbacks, it's not a Cade Klubnik out there, it's not a Caleb Bailey. So who can put the pressure on the passing game? I think that's going to determine the victory. Jackson, you said you want to say something.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go off you. I think that's the most important thing. But I will say, if I had to pick between the backup quarterback at Westlake, let's say they're their injury is still there and Paxton Land isn't able to go. Um, David Amador has proven that he can get it done at wherever you put him on the field. If he's playing running back, he can get it done. If he's playing wide receiver, if he's playing quarterback, that's a dude that arguably I would say has been the best player in the state this year. He just has no letdown, no downshift. That kid is going full effort every play. And if I had to pick, if it came down to which quarterback's going to get razzled or get pressured first, I would take David Amador and that North Shore team to win then.
Yeah, when these two teams played a couple of years ago, I know Matt was all in on North Shore and said there was nobody that could beat North Shore, and I remember saying vividly, you haven't seen this Westlake team, have you? And then Westlake, well, I was so confident in that game. This one's really a toss up in my opinion. I think it can go either way. Again, I think it's which running team can be stopped. That's gonna determine who wins that one. I think I'm gonna go Westlake. It's hard to pick. Again, it's hard to pick. Against 54 games in a row. So until they prove otherwise, you got to pick the team that's gone on nearly or over half a century worth of wins there. So I'm picking Westlake in that one. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Jackson?
No, I just think it's a great time of the year. We've got. I feel like these are the matchups for the most part across the board, especially in 6A, D1, and D2. These are the matchups we wanted to see. These are the matchups we were looking forward to. I mean, of course, you've got the storylines. You've got Westlake's storyline with the win streak. You've got North Shore going for 4 and 7 years. You've got Denton Geyer going for their first. You've got Katy going for their 10th. There's just some awesome stories right now across the board in Texas high school football playoffs and the semis, and this weekend's going to be awesome. So that's all I have. I'm just really excited to watch some games, go cover a game, but mainly just watch them and see what happens, how it plays out.
Just one, Jackson. I'll be covering 4 going to the Alamo Dome Friday and Saturday for the doubleheaders there. So going to have you covered for. Let me get those games for you. I'll have that Katy game. I know that much. Let's see. So I'll have Quail and Wimberley on Friday, and then Tyler, Chapel Hill, and Bernie. And Saturday, Katy Vandergrift College Station, Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial. So that's going to do it for our show for today. Of course, this one's coming out we're recording it on a Wednesday, going to come out tomorrow on a Thursday. So today, when you're watching, and then of course the game starts on Thursday into Saturday. And when we join you next week, we'll have to do this one earlier next week, Jackson, Monday or Tuesday, because state starts on Wednesday, and we're going to make predictions for all 12 games. So 12 games coming next week. Can't wait. By the way, just for people that might be living under a rock, the 1A brackets have already been finalized. So in 1A Division 2, it is going to be. Oh, don't have them updated here. I believe it's. Let me get the brackets here, real quick here. Oh wait, I got it. Give me 1 second. I already have it pulled up. Just didn't know it. So for 1A Division 2, it's Benjamin taking on Lorraine. And Division 1, it's Westbrook taking on Abbott. So those are your 1A matchups. We'll get 2A and 6A by the end of Saturday. So, Jackson, give us some shout-outs before we get out of here.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out the VYPE crew who went out and did Spring Branch today. It was a lot of fun. It's always great doing Media Day. There's a lot that goes into it, though, so shout out to the crew that was out at the Media Day today. Also want to shout out my guy, DJ Lagway, committing today. Very happy for him as he got to make a decision in front of a community that absolutely loves him, in front of family and friends. And it was just awesome to kind of be a part of it and get to see that. So shout out to DJ. Congrats again on committing to Florida. Super proud of you, man.
All right. I'm going to shout out the 4 teams I wrote articles about: Poth, Vandergrift, Bernie, and Liberty Hill. Go check out those articles on VYPE.com. Of course, some of them trying to make history. Vandergrift and Bernie trying to get to the state championship for the first time. Liberty Hill trying to win it for the first time since 2007. And Poth trying to get back for the first time since 1968. It's going to be our show for today. Of course, we'll be back next week, like I said, Monday or Tuesday, to give you our predictions for all 12 state games. Till then, I'm Wac, and that's Jackson, and we'll see you at the games.